So, hello everyone. Good morning still. My name is Charlie Gilding, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee now. I grew up in a very rural part of Mississippi, and I am currently the CEO of a company called G Squared Wireless, and we do help desk support for mobile devices that schools or enterprises or big businesses or whatever give to their employees. And I took that job, or I started at G Squared 13 years ago as an entry level employee and have worked my way up to where I'm at over that period of time. And so it's been really fun, really hard, and really stressful. But that's where I'm at. I also love to play the video games, and I hear you guys have an esports team, and I'm super excited to hear about that. But I don't know how we get to that piece. So I think I got to tell you guys some stuff about me first. But so what should I do now?
Okay, yeah, I think probably just tell us how you got your start, in whether that was starting in middle school, high school, what you did after high school, and what kind of brought you into the world of tech.
Yeah, yeah. So in high school, like I went to a Mantachi Attendance Center. And if you look that up, it's a K through 12 school that's got about 1,000 kids total, and that's where it was when I was there. My graduating class was like 42 people, but for whatever reason, when I was in the seventh grade, the school started getting grants and funding for computers. And so they started bringing in computers, and all I cared about was the games. Like, how can I play this, that, and the other thing? But it really got me turned on to computers in a way that I didn't really have at home because we didn't even have the internet. This was 92, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And like, I didn't have a computer for myself or, uh, I guess, any kind of piece of technology until I was already 18. And so when I was you guys' age, my only experience with computers was at school, and I loved the crap out of them. And I had a buddy who learned how to program in QBasic, which was like pre-Windows, and I would copy exactly what he did, and I could make these circles come up, and it was super cool. Then he figured out how to get past the school's firewall, and we started playing Duke Nukem when we weren't supposed to in the computer labs. And then I had teachers that would give us extra points on tests every time we beat Minesweeper, and so I got to where I got to play that and be pretty good at that. And that was my introduction to video games and technology and all that kind of stuff. But when I turned 18, I met some buddies that were into PC gaming, and because I'd had consoles like Nintendos and Segas and stuff like that, but nothing really stuck for me. Uh, but when I made the friends that were playing the games on the PC, they were playing Warcraft 2, which that's late '90s Blizzard Entertainment, amazing game. And I played Warcraft. We'll just say more than I should. Like before I started playing Warcraft, I didn't know how to type well on a computer or anything like that. But I quickly had to learn to talk. Like, I talk trash when I'm playing any kind of game, whether it's on the internet or in real life. And so I learned how to type specifically to talk trash and not lose at Warcraft 2. And so from there, I've kept the PC. Yeah, I've kept the PC to play games on, through my entire adult life, and I've upgraded here and there over the years and whatnot. But uh, that savviness when I was 18 led me to my job at Radio Shack when I was 21, and then I started selling cell phones there, and that's when I got introduced to, mobility cell phones. I always liked them because they were cool and whatnot. But back when I was growing up, like, they were just like, they weren't ubiquitous in that, like, if you had a cell phone, you were like Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. Has anybody seen Saved by the Bell? One kid, I saw that. One guy. Okay, so he's seen Saved by the Bell. Like, back when I was growing up, they were the coolest teenagers ever. And Zach Morris had a mobile phone. And I remember thinking that was probably the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So when I got my own first mobile phone, I felt super psyched about it, and I was huge into it. I learned everything I could, and that's where I started, like, selling cell phones from the perspective of an enthusiast. And I got the job I have today because I was an enthusiast with technology and just kind of randomly forced myself into a situation. And by randomly forced, I mean I applied for a job that somebody posted on the internet.
And so what is your higher ed background? After high school, college, or junior college, or what did you do?
So initially out of high school, I went to JUCO for a semester, but for me, that was like high school extended. And I'm not the biggest fan of the people I went to high school with. But so I didn't enjoy that necessarily. And so I actually took a few years off, which taught me a few valuable lessons. And the first of which is I'm not going to work in a factory. I'm not suited to work in a factory because I need somebody to at least appreciate the work that I do. And I didn't find any kind of jobs in a factory where that was good. Manufacturing, just not for me. And so it really got me motivated to go back to school. And so, along with my then girlfriend, now wife, she was going to Mississippi State, and so I was just like, I'm not staying in the town I live, which is an hour away, while she moves off and improves herself. And so I got motivated. I went to school. Initially, I was a landscape architect at Mississippi State because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. A semester later, I was psychology, and that's the degree that I wound up with. And so I like to say affectionately that I spent 5 years in college to get a degree in nothing, but I did learn a lot of stuff there, though. I learned a lot in college, just about life in general, and so that was fun. And I learned a lot about that I apply to work today in psychology, because one of the biggest things from a work perspective is change and how to effectively manage change. And change makes people scared all the time. And so as a leader in work, I do get to use psychology to help people mitigate their fears, because I can point out that it's actually fear that's driving the behavior instead of like, rational behavior.
What types of things are you asking people to do to change? Like, what are some examples?
Well, so the perfect example of like how to face fear in change is to look at it. Like most people's initial knee-jerk reaction is to look away, ignore it, it'll go away, all that type of stuff. But you just take the time, you look at it, and then you break down like what the steps are. And if you find yourself not doing anything, your first step is big. It's too big. And so you break down that first step until it's something that you can do, and then that starts the traction, so to speak. So for me, if I'm having a hard time, but I've got to write something down, I'll break it down to the first step just being open the application. And then once I've got the application open, then I can do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But if I'm not taking action, I'm afraid of something. And then that turns into procrastination, because I'm a real good procrastinator.
Okay, that's awesome. What did you describe your day to day? I mean, I know things are constantly changing as a CEO, but what are some of your, day to day experiences and descriptions of what you do?
Well, so a big part of what I do is maintain a knowledge of the industry. So I work in enterprise mobility support. And so like any kind of enterprise issue where they're like, I've got 22,000 cell phones, what should I do about X, Y, or Z? It's my job to know what the answer to that is. Or in some cases, come up with the question to ask to begin with, because sometimes folks didn't even know where to start. And so it's my job to come in and be the quote unquote expert. I also work with the sales teams here at G Squared to make sure that their strategies and everything are plugged into like what I see as far as the industry goes, because I spend a lot of time networking, which is just talking to people, doing my due diligence to make sure I hear everybody's perspective so I can make the best decisions possible. So I work with the sales teams on that. I work with the operations team and data analytics team on making sure that they're up to speed on how it is that they do things. So we take a job, and then we break it down into data or pieces of data, and then we say, if you're doing your job well, the data will show this, and we're going to leave you alone. And if you're not doing your job well, the data will show that, and then we're going to work with you until you are doing that job well. And so that's the approach we take, and it's a harder approach because you've got to be able to give expectations which is more difficult than just saying, you know, good luck, do your best. Hope you do well.
That's awesome.
When it comes to jobs.
What are some examples of problems you have solved with your team or individually at G Squared, that like maybe some like micro work-based learning experiences that you could explain to the kids?
Yeah, well, so the easiest thing, hang on, let me get a drink of water so I can do this.
Okay. And also, students, if you have questions for Charlie, be thinking about those, because I'm gonna toss it over to you all in just a minute. So.
Oh, no. When it comes to question times, I get to go first.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
you guys
Totally
hold your
different.
questions
Okay.
until I get to mine, because I got to know what you guys are playing and like what kind of rigs you guys have. Like, I need to know all of that, because high school esports to me is one of the most interesting things I can think of. So I get to go first. That's all that's
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So one of the things, okay, let me back up. Do you guys know what the Great Resignation is? If you can shake heads in that, yes, no, all that kind of stuff. No. Okay, so the Great Resignation is something that's currently going on. It's so the pandemic made a lot of companies allow their employees to go home and work from home. And what people found out is they like it a lot, like a lot. They like being able to do their laundry in the middle of the week instead of waiting on the weekend. They get more free time. They don't waste time driving to and fro. You can literally roll out of bed and just start working. And that's amazing. And people found out it was amazing over the year and a half everybody was home from the pandemic. So fast forward to now, and there's a lot of companies that are making people come in and do their work. And it's pissing people off. So people that are good right now have a choice of where they work, and so they're leaving. They're going to other places that'll give them what they want. So that's a modern day problem that's new, specifically because of the pandemic and expectations and technology and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. So there's a real shortage in good employees today if you don't give anything to your employees, meaning if you don't train them. So back in the mid-aughts, we were running into the same problem, or not mid-aughts, mid-teens, so like 2013, 14, 15, where we couldn't find good employees because we required a bachelor's degree for a mobile help desk position, don't know why, and we required mobile experience. And that makes more sense because you're talking about cell phones all the time. And so the problem was we couldn't bring in good people, or if we did, they had to have mobile experience, and so maybe they didn't jive with our culture, or they weren't the nicest people, because we don't really like dealing with not nice people. So, you know, it was a problem for us. So what we did is we worked as a team to build up a training program. So it took us 2 years in total to get the curriculum and everything done. And so what we said is, you know, going into it, we don't care what you know, we care what you're willing to learn. And changing to that mindset back then required us to build the training. So it's like, sure, you don't know anything, you come in, we'll teach you how to be a mobile expert. So each one of you guys could come, you know, like you turn 18, you come work for us, we'll put you through a 16-week training course on how to be a mobile expert. So much so that you can help people over the phone. Like, I know you guys can help grandparents and stuff like that when they've got issues and whatnot, but now imagine talking to somebody that knows as much over the phone and doesn't care about being nice to you. And so that's the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. But we also, but I'm getting a little bit too far. So go back to the building up of the training and stuff like that. So we built up this training, we started hiring good people, and not only did it work, but it worked spectacularly. Because we give people something as soon as they get here, and they appreciate that. It shows them that we're focused on our employees. And nowadays, like, we started doing this in the mid-teens, but nowadays that's a requirement. If you're going to go work from somebody and they don't treat you right, then you're not going to stay. And everybody knows that. And so our positioning and our understanding of what we needed back then has helped us out more than we could have ever imagined in 2022, because we specifically take the time to build up and teach what we know, and then give it to every single employee that comes in. So when they finish our training, they can put that on their resume and they can make more money. It increases their personal value as an employee. And they appreciate that. And that's something that we did that we didn't have to do, but we did it because we knew that it would improve our ability to do our jobs.
I love it. I feel like that's so important, that future employees understand that they have a choice where they get to be and the types of people they get to work around. Okay, I have two more questions for you, and then I'll let you start questioning the students. So one thing is, I know you're a curious, constant learner. What are you learning about right now that gets you excited, whether it's in your field or in general?
So I am learning how to be better in social media. I am terribly inconsistent online, and the pandemic did not help out with that at all. I got far away from all of my internet connections, and so I'm intentionally trying to become a more consistent communicator, and build up community around like the topic that I just talked about with the workforce training and getting to people and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm passionate about. And I can only do so much without being proactive on the internet. And so that's something that I'm currently into, is like specifically how to better use Twitter, because I suck at the Twitters.
That's great. And the other thing I was going to ask, what has been something that surprised you in your field, whether it's something you learned or experiences you've had, that would be helpful to
surprise me in what kind of way?
Just like that you weren't expecting to, when you're in high school or college and you're thinking about a job, you are probably kind of thinking in a certain box, but what was something? Yeah.
So something that I initially learned in college that has been extended out to my professional life is that just because somebody's in a position of authority and power doesn't make them good at what they do. And that's been the most important lesson for me to learn, because I've had people tell me, I can do this, I can't do that, I should do this, I shouldn't do that, but they don't know. It's not to say that they don't know anything. They're just guessing based off of their own perception. And most people intentionally keep a very narrow perception of like how things work, especially when it comes to technology. And so understanding that the uppity ups, especially in my industry, are not savvy with technology and how its application improves everything. I push more things today because of that, because I feel like I know something. And in the past, I would have just said, well, this is something I know. They know it automatically because they're in an authoritative position. Whereas now, if I know something, I'm going to tell people, because if I keep it to myself and assume that somebody else knows something or can do something or has these abilities because they're in this position, then I'm going to be wrong and stuff's not going to get done.
That's great.
But having said that, though, there are extremely talented people out there. They're just not where you think they'd be in most cases.
That's wonderful. Okay. I love it. But I want to give you plenty of time to ask the students and have them ask you questions. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, or Eric, for you to share about anything else that you think of along the way. Please go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, who here plays the video games? Who's on the esports team? Do you guys have an esports team?
We have an esports club. It's after school right now. What they don't know is that we're going to be offering esports class next year. So they'll be able to take it as an actual class during the day. Figured that one out.
Video games at school?
So that's brand new information.
Right. Huzzah. So if there are any seniors in the group, sorry, but
exactly. Right. Or any of
that's the deal.
Oh, Marietta. Sorry. Damien's gone.
Okay, so the club, like, do you guys play LAN stuff, online stuff? Do you do your own thing? Do you try to play as a team? Like, how does that go?
Some of our guys and girls play their own thing. We have our own internal Minecraft team. We don't play against any outsiders. We use Play Versus as our main platform, since that's all web-based. It's free for the most part. We play Rocket League on that, so a lot of our guys play Rocket League there. That's really our main game. They offer Madden and FIFA and things like that, but Rocket League and what's the Mario?
Smash Brothers?
Super Smash Brothers. That's the other one. Yep.
Yeah, Smash is a good one. Okay, so like right now with your Minecraft team, is it are you guys doing like coordinated speed runs, or are you just creative in it up, or like how does that work?
I actually think they just got done doing the speed run. So yes.
That's cool. So my son, who's 10, specifically wanted me to ask you guys that, because that's what he's into the most right now. And I think that's cool that you guys are doing that. So I was wondering, so you go by coach, right?
Yes.
Is that esports coach, or do you do like basketball coaching or something like that too?
Football. You can't see how tall I am, but basketball is not my area.
Okay. All right. Well, I was secretly hoping that you were called coach because you were the coach of the esports team, because I have a feeling that if esports coaches get the title of coach, I might have to go teach at high school just to be an esports coach, because I really bad want to be called coach, but just for esports.
If you can run your business remotely, then we can find you a house tomorrow and you can come be our coach. Think I'm kidding?
We'll see. We'll definitely see. Like, I do want to talk to you because I've seen like the effort you put into making this kind of stuff happen. So I do want to talk. But so does anybody have any aspirations of working and or playing video games for a living, or working in the video game industry and or playing?
Anybody wants to work?
Okay.
Life is nice. We have when you mentioned earlier that you said you were the student in high school. I forget what you had said, but you described one of our students to the T. It's Elijah, sitting here in the front row. We walk into the room sometimes. I say we because I'm in the dark on this as well. We walk in, and some days Elijah has a Raspberry Pi hooked up to his own monitor. Some days he's got his own laptop out and he's playing Minecraft, or he's got some video game. He figured out how to get past the firewall of the school. So yeah, we just kind of quit asking questions.
Yeah, well, that's a cool strat. I'm going to assume that Elijah's up to only good things all the time, ever.
I'm going to assume that as well. It makes me sleep at night.
Yeah, and that's awesome. But that's the exact kind of curiosity that you need in tech. Like, you can't be afraid of it at all. Like, all it is time and effort. And so everybody in here who wants to be in video games in some way, shape, or form in the future, the best thing to know right now is that whole great resignation thing I was talking about earlier, it's leading you guys towards the future where if you want to stay right where you're at, you can. If you want to move and live in the middle of the desert, as long as you have consistent internet, you guys are going to be able to get the job you want. Not a job, but the job. So long as you work hard.
One of our students was asking, I think it was Matt, like, how do you, so, okay, cool. We graduate high school. We took a couple computer classes, couple coding classes. We were on the esports team. When I graduate high school, like, how do I get a job working for a video game development company? Like, where do I go? We live in a rural area, so.
Well, so the question is, what do you want to do at the video game company? Do you want to be a developer? Because if you want to be a developer, you've got to have skills. Like, you've got to bring skills to the table. In most cases, there are developers that will put time and effort into you and teach you up and all that kind of stuff, but you're not going to be making the big money at those places. So typically there's a trade-off. High pay comes with expertise and experience. Lower pay comes with training and building you up and allowing, exposure to that type of stuff. So what I would do, and this is what I'm doing in a certain way, is like I would start getting online right now and find the community that you're looking for. Like, so if you've got a game, like what's your favorite game?
Favorite games? Madden, Fortnite, a couple of things. What else?
Okay.
Call of Duty.
Yeah. So Call of Duty, whatever. Like if you want to, now that Microsoft owns Activision, that's actually a really sweet deal working for on Call of Duty games, because Microsoft is paying a ton of money and they put a ton of effort into their people too. So I would find an adjacent, like a Microsoft community around gaming, and just start watching what they say. And then after a while, jump in and start talking to them. And then once you start talking to them, just literally ask them questions. And engage with them, and then knowing those people and where they're at could allow you the opportunity to apply at some of these positions early on, because it's getting to the point where if you're a development company, because video game developers are a big deal, like especially the good ones, but every single industry that exists right now needs developers, and so developers are highly sought after if they're good. And I imagine that Microsoft has programs that will like help train people up. And they may even have high school programs where you could put some work or attention to a project in high school that could set you up for an internship or something like that, because that's what you really want to do. And there's Microsoft offices here in Nashville, but I don't think it's the game development stuff. That's all in California. But you really want to get visibility with those communities to be able to get to where you want to go. If you don't have the experience, if you have the experience in the portfolio, so to speak, then you just go to a recruiting firm and say, hey, here's all the stuff, here's what I want to do, I'm good. And they'll get you in front of the people to do the interviews. Then you got to be a good interviewer, and that's a whole different story.
So when they ask me not to be a teacher anymore, and when some of these guys and ladies graduate high school and we decide we want to become like testers for these video games, like we want to play video games and we want to make money, what are our options there? Maybe we're not going to be coding or developing, we just want to play. Is that possible?
Yeah. So every single company, like every single business has a business side to it. So I do, like I started off doing help desk stuff, but every single video game, like I played Warcraft or World of Warcraft from like 2004 to 2013 or whatever. And, anytime you had a problem, you messaged people, and, GMs and stuff like that. And those are Blizzard employees that get to sit in the game and just chill and talk to people and help them with their problems. And that's a job. And there are other jobs that exist like that. Like, so they've got help desk people that you call when you need to reset your password, but the online thing isn't working, or that take trouble tickets, or that figure out how to do the finances and stuff like that. Like if you want to work in video games, development, play testing is a thing, but like that's like the dream job. Like I only know one play tester, I know multiple developers. If you want to work in the industry, you can do anything. You can be a manager of a team of 5 people. You can be the person who counts the quarterly statements and reports it, and like you can do any kind of business job. Like every job we have at G Squared, you could take and then put into a larger business that does video game stuff, and just replace the mobile cell phone stuff with like app support for the video game, or app support for like the companion app or whatever it is. And you can do that. And then from there, like once you get in, from there, you can start to make what's called lateral moves. So you're in this department, but being inside the company, you get visibility into all the internal postings for jobs. And so you can build your skills on whatever it is you want to do in the end while you're doing entry level stuff, and then apply every single time a job you want comes up, even if you're not ready, just to get the experience with interviews and whatnot. And then if you keep at it and and you're growing your skill sets and stuff like that, it will happen.
I've got one more question, but before I ask that, to wrap up here, do y'all have any questions for Charlie that we haven't asked, or maybe he hasn't hit on? What you got, Elijah? What's that? Elijah's asking about DOS gaming.
QBasic, and even more advanced, like going into the actual
What do you mean? Like, I'm not, so when we played games, so I didn't play games in DOS. The only thing we used DOS for was file management. And but in QBasic we played like school games. Like they loaded up a bunch of, it's back when we had floppy disks, and they would load the floppy disks in, and then we would go through the QBasic menu and access it just like it was like a file on the computer or whatever. You know, you just do CD space whatever, or whatever name .exe, and then it would launch it and whatever. And so most of it was just educational games in the early days of QBasic. But then, like I said, my buddy would get in, and he would go into the script writer, and he would just start writing stuff. Like I could only ever do the circles that would pop up, and that's basically because I memorized the code. But then he could do stuff like he could draw like skull and crossbones or Jolly Roger or whatever you call it, and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was playing, like, he was way ahead of his time, and he either was going to be a hacker or just live in the woods somewhere. And he just chose to live in the woods somewhere in the end. But he was up on computer stuff like way early.
Kind of like figuring out how to access your teacher's soundbar when they're not in the room, right, Elijah? Kind of like that. All right, last question. I think a lot of us have been wondering this. I'm going to ask this as professionally as I can.
Sure.
What kind of money are we talking here? So the lowest
For which
entry level to like highest that you know of.
So if I were coming out of high school looking for a job, I would expect to make between $35,000 and $45,000 a year, depending on where I go, with the expectation that while I'm working there, they are actively giving me things to make me more valuable. Experience, like we'll say 2 years experience gets you 60K and up. And then from there, it's just depending on how good you are. Like, you may never make more than 60K as a developer, but if you're making 60Ks after 10 years of being a developer, that says more about you than it does your employer.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't think we
But
have any
like
more.
right now, so just to preface or to fill out that entire thing, if you're a good developer right now, just as an individual contributor, which means you sit down and you code in on your keyboard and type stuff, like you can make $250,000.
Oh, awesome.
And that's unheard of before the pandemic.
Cool. So a lot of new jobs. All right. I think that's all that we've got. Charlie, thanks. We appreciate this. That's awesome stuff, man. You're doing some really cool things.
No, sir, you guys. I'm excited to see how it's going next year. And do reach out, because I've got a lot of questions about how you set up an esports league in Tennessee.
Awesome. And I need a lot of advice in that area. Miss Emily, what else do you have for us today?
Nothing. Thank you so much, Charlie. You have so much great advice and wisdom, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share it. One thing I was going to say is that Charlie is a pretty humble guy, and he wouldn't share that he was the NTC champion of the year. And that's really all about his service and his leadership at his company, but just in the community. He's all about investing in other people, and he is outstanding. But I think he's also an example that there are people out there like him who want to, oh yeah, there's his guitar.
They give guitars as trophies in Nashville. Isn't that neat? It's real too.
You can actually play it. But there are people out there that do want to invest in you. And Charlie's one of them, and we're so thankful for him. And I'm really excited for you guys. I appreciate all that you're doing in high school. Like, you're like 10 steps ahead if you're already working on this right now. And I'm excited to come meet you in person in a few weeks. So we're just excited that you're here and that you're all getting to meet. And I really appreciate everyone's time. So thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. We're looking forward to the next meeting.
For sure. Any last words, Charlie? We're good to go?
Well, I'm glad that this wasn't in a computer lab where I was keeping people away from their screens and whatnot. But I appreciate you guys sitting in and listening and whatnot. And if you guys ever have any questions, like, feed it up through to the NTC, and they know how to get to me. And I'll more than happily like make a video or whatever, just help out.
We'll send you his Twitter handle too, so you can follow up on him on the internets.
Oh yeah, yeah. Seeing as how I am trying to get better at that, I should plug it, I guess.
We'll check you on that. Well, thank you so
Okay.
much. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See y'all.
All right. Bye.